I'm Catherine McLean, founder and CEO of Dylan Green, and today I have with me Joy Seitz. Joy is the CEO of American Solar and Roofing, and she is joining us from the great state of Arizona. Welcome, Joy.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
So thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
I've been in the solar industry for 15 years, specifically on the residential DG side, came out of lobbying and government relations.
Mhm.
And our company is 22 years old. We were the first to grid tie into the city of Phoenix, into the city of Scottsdale. Been very active in the policy making on the distributed solar side for that 22 years.
Now, prior to becoming COO and now CEO of American Solar and Roofing, you were heavily involved, as you mentioned, in policy work. How did you make your way into the solar industry?
I came into the industry in 2009, in which probably every sector was crashing
Mhm.
except for solar. Because of my political days and working on campaigns, I had a friend of mine who knew of American and said, "Hey, they're looking for an assistant manager of policy. Why don't you apply?" So I did. And lo and behold, I haven't, relaxed since. So I came in on the policy side and worked a lot there and then worked my way up. I became vice president of policy because we were thinking about going into California and they needed
Yeah,
a more executive rep for that.
yeah.
And then after we did a buyout of our business partner, it was determined that my skill sets were best to help scale the company and pivot the company into a different direction.
That's great. And what impact do you think the IRA has had thus far on your business? And like, what are some of the key changes, whether they be policy related or otherwise, that you think need to happen within solar for it to flourish more?
Yeah. Great question. Thank you. I think for me, when I think about the IRA, definitely it starts with stability.
Yeah.
So obviously not having to fight the, cliff, right? The
Hmm.
23%, 26%, not having to
Hmm.
play the herky jerky game with our customers and just having consistency is important. I think once you have consistency and the federal government is supporting it, anybody who was maybe sitting on the sidelines, which, thinking maybe solar isn't that big of a deal or not that good, obviously it pulls them off the sidelines and creates credibility. But in general, it it definitely just put a mark in the sand that solar is here to stay.
Right.
And so I feel as though that maybe other sectors have maybe benefited a little bit more from that, but that's okay. All boats rise. So
Hmm.
my why in my company is affecting revolutionary change through my employees, my customers, and my community. And
Right.
so if the IRA is going to help the community and then the customers and then ultimately my employees, that is a perfectly fine solution. So
Mhm.
again, having consistency with the 30% tax credit is great. Having increased, having my I buy from Q cell, so having solar
Right.
panels be in Georgia, that's great. Our
Right.
customers love that. So there are many trickle downs, but a total direct effect, it's not, I'm still running a day-to-day company.
Right. About a month ago, you made a public comment on the buyback rate for Arizona Public Service and Tucson Electric Power. Can you share more about this?
Yeah, so it's unfortunate that we're having a conversation about it. I think it was a very heavily, debated topic,
Mhm.
publicly and online within the docket, at the PUC. And so basically what it comes down to is we have a couple commissioners who believe that they want to open up a value of solar docket, and discuss and rediscuss, a
Mhm.
subject matter that really the state and all of the stakeholders who participated in agreed to, right? So
Right.
we came together with the utilities, with other commissioners, with other stakeholders, with um um and we all agreed that what we came up with was exactly how we should go forward for a period of time. And now we just have commissioners that dislike that outcome, dislike what previous commissioners had voted on. And so now they're wanting to reopen it. So my challenge to them was both can be true, right? You can be frustrated at the decisions that were made by somebody else. We get that.
Right.
15 years in the business, I've heard it from other commissioners. They don't like to be locked by another decision by
Sure.
another or another group of people. But I challenged them to go to RE Plus this year. I said, it's in Vegas. I'm in Arizona. I once hosted another corporation commissioner back in the day and said, hey, walk the floor with me. And they did. And I challenged them to do the same, right? This isn't just a little nimble industry anymore, right? We're
Right.
now talking about the federal administration, and the Biden administration and the Congress investing $500 billion into our sector, and come and see what we're talking about. This isn't just little Arizona anymore. And they had an opportunity. They have an opportunity, and they still have an opportunity because the decision isn't made yet, but they have an opportunity to see that this is really a global opportunity focusing on Arizona. And that's what I'm really encouraging them to reframe the conversation. It's not about me anymore. It's about economic development, right?
Right. Right.
It is about onshoring opportunities. It is about making it a viable opportunity for Arizona. What conservative chambers have been wanting, our industry can now provide that. So
Right.
that's my challenge. So yeah, that's why I provided that feedback
Yeah.
back at the commission about a month ago.
And what did they think? I'm curious. Like, were they amazed by the amount of like people and everything that was going on when you took them?
Um, I don't think that I don't know because they really never play their poker hand. I think that they were
Right.
I think again, they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? They're saying like, "Hey, customers who are making comments to the docket, like you're protected." Um, but at the same time, they get frustrated that they can't get more comments from people who aren't impacted yet. And it's like, well, you're not going to get comments from people who don't understand the process, right?
Right.
That's a fourth branch of government, right? So stop thinking that
Right.
people are going to stop their days of working, taking care of their children, and doing their lives to pay attention to something that may or may not impact them.
Right.
So, again, both are true that they get frustrated. They were overwhelmed they had to have been overwhelmed by the amount of comments, but they were like, oh, don't pay attention to those comments because the people in the future that could be impacted didn't comment. So then maybe they just don't know. So that's an unfortunate reality that we've dealt with at our PUC since I've been here, since 2009.
You talked about how it's important to vet your suppliers to ensure that they align with your company values.
Hmm.
Who are some of your key partners and why? So, for example, I know you work closely with SMA and Malarkey Roofing. Tell me a little
Hmm.
bit more.
Hmm. So my core values with my company is hunger for achievement, search for knowledge, fearlessly kind,
Hmm.
positively accountable. And those
Hmm.
are very real conversations. When I have an opportunity as a CEO and a female CEO, I don't have to report to anyone, just like you,
Hmm.
right? We get to do it exactly how we want to do it. I don't have a board member. I don't have another business partner. I don't have anybody else in which I have to ask permission. And
Right.
that is a powerful position. That is a powerful position for me to be in the
Right.
sense that every decision that I make is my legacy, and I'm making it solely. So when I was given the challenge to save my company and quite honestly save the industry from a death spiral, I just really decided that I wanted to do it on my terms.
Hmm.
And so I really do believe you vote with your dollar. I challenge my customers that when they invest in me, they invest in everything else that I do. They invest in my
Right.
community work. They invest in my relationships to SEIA. They invest in me having conversations with you.
Right.
And so I feel the same way about my manufacturers. So when I'm speaking with my manufacturers, I want them to hit the same core values as me on really being forward looking, on really setting an opportunity, even if I'm not here, that my customers are going to be protected. If they're not here, and I put their product in, how are they going to be protected? So I do
Right.
really deep dives into their warranties. So SMA has been our partner for nearly 15 years. They're conservative, they're thoughtful. They are not, they're here, they're not here for the quick come and go, right? They're not like venture capital funded and in and out they go. Um, and so is Malarkey. Malarkey is my roofing my roofing product. And They're hugely committed to sustainability long before anybody else was. Their warranty is great. Again, if I'm not around, that's okay. The
Mhm.
customers can still be supported by that product. And so I just really am hyper focused on giving my money to the right people for the longevity of our industry, solar and roofing, and for the credibility to give construction a good name. We have
Right,
a fly by night persona.
right.
Um, I just refuse to play in that game.
Yeah. I really love that. Like your focus is your legacy. I think if more people thought like that, like, you know, what are the decisions that I'm making now? Like, what are the ramifications of that? Both in
Hmm.
the short, medium, but long term, right? One of the things I always say to candidates when I'm trying to help them write their resume is not what are your responsibilities, but like if you what are your achievements? Like if you left tomorrow, what would your company be like? Oh, really gonna miss that she did that or they did that, or like what's
Yeah.
that sort of legacy that you're leaving behind? And that's how you should write your resume.
Yeah, that just gave me I still have goosebumps on my legs. Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely. I couldn't have said it best. So that's exactly how you would want, how I would want my employees to feel too.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's perfect.
You're a vocal proponent of greater DEIJ initiatives within the industry. What are some of the ways you're facilitating this within your own company? So, whether it be through recruiting, as we've mentioned, executive training, mentorship programs, and supplier diversity, for example.
Thank you. Well, I'll start from the end. Buyer diversity. I partnered up with Baywa a number of years ago, and there's a great rep over there, Kim. She was my first rep. That was the first time I got to buy from a female.
Mhm.
I was like, this is beautiful. They didn't carry the modules that I wanted. I pushed my team and I said, I don't care that they don't have the modules we want. They have a culture that I want and I want to work with a woman. So we're moving to Baywa. Um, and Baywa, probably internal staff know to this day that Kim sadly isn't she's still at Baywa, but she's not my rep anymore. I have Christine. Um, but they probably all know that if they tried to give me a male rep, it wouldn't work out. So,
That's one way to go about it.
yeah, so they know if they want American Solar's money that they better keep a female rep online. And so we could joke about that to this day. And they're amazing partners of mine. Again, we really align on the same core values and the long term success of our industry.
Mhm,
Um, and then, yeah, then going internal hiring practices. Uh, I was just hiring for a warehouse manager and
mhm.
I saw a name that came across and I thought it was a female, um, but it ended up being a male. So, universal names. The resume wasn't the best, I'm not gonna lie. But because it was a female applying for a male dominated industry, that doesn't mean that I was gonna have to hire her. But I did decide I wanted to give her the time to
Yep.
interview with me, right?
Yes.
And at least say, like, am I missing anything? Many things,
Sure.
as you just said, if they don't have you on their side, writing a really good
That's right.
resume, right? There could be things that I'm missing. And so I am
Totally.
extremely intentional on if a female candidate applies for it, I'm gonna call, or I push my team to call. I was very intentional on wanting to have diversity in the leadership level, and we've achieved that.
Mhm.
So I have scorecards, basically KPIs that are tracked within my company on a weekly basis. DEIJ is a scorecard number of increasing diversity within it. So it's important that we are hiring people that don't look even like me. So, I mean, I do focus on increasing females, but we need more diversity. And it's just, I don't know. Again, it's just, I don't wanna do it any other way. It's like the
Mhm.
right thing to do. It's what I do. I want more voices. I feel like I just really dawned on me that I'm 46 years old. Like, I'm really like, "Oh, okay, I'm 46. I'm almost 50." It dawned on me even, the gentleman who was helping me set all this up, he's in his early 20s, that alone is diversity within a
Yeah.
culture, right?
Sure, sure.
And so it's just important that we all, at the same time, there's a lot of heated conversations, and I also feel as though that people, especially like white men, like they don't even know what to say. If they want to be an ally, they don't even know what to say. And as I was talking to another peer of mine, we are all feeling that, right? Like I am not a gay person. I am not a, I do not fall in LGBTQ plus. So I have to create space. But if at the same time, if it's a male who is, is LGBTQ plus,
Mhm.
he doesn't know my story as a female. So he has to
Sure.
create space for me and I have to create space for him. And we just
Yep.
have to be we just need to be kinder and understand, create space for stories. I'm going to share
Yep.
mine, you share yours. It's just a matter of understanding and it's a
Yep.
matter of creating a culture that people feel safe to do so.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point, on like so many different levels, and also like a lot. Just what you're talking about with the LGBTQ community, like a lot of things aren't obvious about what makes someone diverse, right?
Mhm.
Like someone could be, half Chinese but look white. Like you don't have any idea what someone's story is, like you said, or what their sexual orientation is, and it's up to them to want to share that with you, if at all, right? And like
Right.
creating that sort of safe space where they feel like that they can do that, I think is really kind of key.
Yeah.
um
And I
so
try and I sorry. And
it's great.
I try to be the dumb person in the room who, like, abruptly talks about things and, like, abruptly kind of rips the Band-Aid off, and I'm like, "So, who knew Ken, only liked the patriarchy for the horses?" You know what I mean? Like, which comes out of the Barbie movie. Like, I talk about my period all the time just to, like, destigmatize what it feels in front of all my
Yeah.
male counterparts, just to destigmatize what it feels like to be a female,
Yeah.
dude, you know what I mean? Like, can you believe that every day my hormones change and you want me to stay consistent? You know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
that's not even fair. Don't even ask me to do
Totally.
that. So
Yeah.
just be like, "Oh, dude, I didn't even think about that." Right? Like
Yeah.
that is how I create my culture. Is
Yeah.
I jack the whole thing up so that everybody can be like, "Well, I'm not gonna say it as bluntly or as crazy or as weird as Joy
Yeah.
says it, but now I know that I can say it to some degree."
Sure, sure, sure. My best friend works in investment banking, and she's always going on and on about menopause.
Right.
She's like, it's such an enormous part of like a huge chunk of like a woman's life that is really like upheaval, like since
Yes,
you've had kids, like it's the next big thing kind of thing. And it's just
totally.
not talked about like at all. And like
It's
you can't
not.
take any time out, to deal with it. And
Right, now I'm, like, occurring to me, I'm 11 years removed from having a kid, and I still have a period, and now I'm like, "Why didn't I get a reprieve?" Like, why wasn't the system built like you could just be like, "Okay, layover, party time," and then, like, go into menopause? Nope,
yeah.
you just go from one journey into another. So, yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting and I love being an owner of my company so that I know that I am allowed to say that and destigmatize it so that other females can hear me say it
Yeah.
and feel like, "Oh, okay, so oh, right? Like,
Yeah.
whoa, I
Yeah.
can say that and I
Yeah.
can think that way." And like, "Yep,
Yeah.
you sure can."
Yeah, I'm on this thing lately where I'm 43, so I'm 3 years younger than you, and I'm like, as long as I'm still having one, I guess I should be thankful. Like, apparently, I'm still young,
Right?
so
I'm in full gratitude that it exists, which is a whole other podcast. But yes, I feel the same way. Yeah. I use it actually now as a business tool. Again, another podcast, another time. But
um, okay, where are we? Let's see here. You are fairly involved in your community, including a recent Environmental Defense Fund event and ASU's Innovation Open you attended. How
mhm,
important do you think it is for businesses and business leaders to give back to the community?
I think it's my number one job.
Hmm.
Again, as I've said it a few times, I am I am privileged enough to live in America
Hmm.
and leverage all of the opportunities that are given to businesses. Now, granted, small businesses, whew, I can't believe I'm as regulated as big businesses, right? But nonetheless, it is an opportunity that I have, and it gives me joy. It gives me
Mhm,
pleasure. It is my why. It is it is everything that I do. So I don't
mhm,
to tell me that you don't give back, it doesn't even like that doesn't even that's like telling me the sky is, green, you know what I
mhm,
mean, or pink. I don't understand why folks don't give back. And again, it's because I am granted the privilege to sit at the seat, and I also believe that it keeps you humble.
mhm.
It keeps me humble, it keeps me connected, it keeps me listening, it keeps me engaging, it keeps me young, it keeps me I if I ever was like, yeah, people should invest in my company. I don't have investors in my company, but it keeps me like alive, and it
Yeah,
keeps me paying attention to the next. What's the next? You can't just be like, I'm in solar forever and ever, amen, right? Like I'm going to conferences now about AI. I'm going to
right,
conferences now about cybersecurity. I'm going to conferences that are completely outside of solar, because all I'm doing is running a company, and it just so happens that I'm in the, solar industry and the roofing industry, but
right.
it all overlays. So it makes me a better CEO, it makes me a better community person, and it fills my joy, and honestly, I would feel like a greedy human if I
Mhm.
wasn't participating in my community.
Yeah. What are some of the ways that you give back to the community?
I answer their phone calls all of the time.
Also,
So
it's
I'm
like
going
having
to
candidates.
what's that?
It's like having candidates.
Yes, exactly. I answer their phone calls all of the time. I provide my feedback. I provide my advice. I provide if they, hey, Joy, do you know somebody? Yes, I
Mhm,
do.
mhm.
I always warn them. I'm like, look, you can't just like have me go to all these meetings and then not ask me to do things. Like you need to get me in and get me out, right? So I'm not there for the long haul board meetings and checking a box. I always ask those folks, how can I serve you?
Right.
So from money to exposure to connections on like during Veterans Day, I
Yeah,
sent an email to all of my customers and said, "Hey, during this Veterans Day, please give back to these local, not
yeah,
I don't know them. I've never met those people, but I went to my
yeah,
own Facebook page and said, "Hey, who are the local veterans or
yeah,
nonprofits that
yep,
y'all think that I should be supporting?"
yep,
And they said this ones, and I said, "Okay." And then I sent them out to my 25,000,
yeah,
connections through my CRM and promoted them.
yeah,
Like again, like I have a platform. It is
yep,
critical for me to use it.
yep. I feel so strongly about that. I really do. Like when you do have that sort of social, especially like from a company, but also like a social media standpoint, and you can make a difference. It's like it's
Hmm.
just by writing a few words. It's like
Right.
so valuable. So the last question I have for you is there's quite a lot of excitement and buzz, as you know, in the industry with the new with the I wouldn't say new, but uh the election coming out for SEIA,
Oh
SEIA
yes.
board members.
Hmm.
Um, so you've been a SEIA board member for 2 years, so a relative newbie.
Hmm.
And you've been endorsed by the SEIA Nominating Committee.
Yes.
So tell us why you think you should be elected again.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Well, I am a newbie, so I am there are 3 elected seats on the SEIA board. So written in the bylaws, there are 3 elected seats. You can hold
Yeah.
two 2-year terms, and that's it. So I
Okay.
just did my first term, and now I'm going to my second and final term.
Right.
Um, why I should be elected? I should be elected just because of everything that I just said.
Right.
I have been sitting in the seat for 2 years. I feel like I'm one of the only there's a handful of us owners, right, who sit at the
Yeah.
table. A lot of people have, large corporations. I'm not seeing QCell CEO, right? Let's be honest, or Solar Edge CEO, or, there's many large corporations that sit on that board, and the CEOs aren't showing up, which is fine. They have bigger things to do. I get that. But I do bring, because of me being a CEO, I am able to speak maybe more honestly, right? I don't have to with again, with all due respect, toe a line of something, right?
Right, right.
I'm able, if there is a heated debate coming up, I don't have to be like, oh, what's my boss going to say if I say this? Is this what the company wants or not? Like I know what the
Yeah,
company wants because I am the company.
right.
Um, so I bring a different variety to that. I'm also a female. There is not a lot of diversity on there, so that's important. I
Mhm.
also am very heavily involved in Arizona. Arizona, as we just kind of commented about, right?
Yeah,
Being involved in my community, and going to the, event with Mark Kelly, our senator,
yeah,
um, about the 1-year anniversary of the Inflation Reduction Act.
right.
Everything that SEIA teaches me from utility scale to manufacturing to community solar to, everything down, and all of the issues that they all contend with, I learn and I'm a sponge and I bring that back.
Yeah,
I met Omco, a large manufacturing, developer at
yeah,
SEIA. He said, hey, come and do a tour. I took my time. I did my tour. I don't buy their product. They're large
yeah,
tractors in a field. That's not my jam right now. But it was important for me again to take what I learn in DC or wherever our board meeting
yeah,
is, and then bring it back to Arizona, and then promote other organizations and other stakeholders who are involved in this conversation, because the Inflation Reduction Act is now something we have to fight for. As we
yeah,
talked about it in our last board meeting, this is like Obamacare, right? Universal
yeah,
health care. As soon as it got passed, it was ready for the attack. And Abby, the executive
yeah,
director of SEIA, is like, this is when our work begins. And it's like, absolutely. We have to live in gratitude of what the administration has done and what Congress has done. At the same time, we have to understand that the industry could mess it up, or Congress could mess it up. Like anybody can mess it up. Now we have to cherish it. And I feel as though that my work with SEIA and bringing it back to Arizona, a swing state, is a very critical piece to the puzzle.
yeah,
And that's why I feel like I'm an excellent board member, is that I
yeah,
don't just go there, see how it can help me, and then come back to my organization. I figure it out, all the things I could do for the entities involved and the sectors involved of solar and storage, and I bring it back to Arizona.
yeah. I think it's such a good point. You're almost like representing a state rather than representing just one company. And I think that going back to your original point about being a woman and diversity on the board, I think there's also just some diversity in geography, right? Like
Mhm.
there's so much activity going on, as we were saying earlier in Arizona, and it's just such a vital voice to be, involved in this sort of conversation.
Yeah, and I'm always, if anybody finds me on LinkedIn, for this couple weeks, I promote endorsements. So I went out to people and said, "Hey, well, in my local area, will you endorse me
Sure.
and my candidacy?" And
Yeah.
I do that obviously because content matters, but really I do it because whether I win or I lose, I love Arizona. The more I
Hmm.
travel and I come back into Arizona, I
Hmm.
like love my mayor,
Yeah.
Kate Gallego.
Mhm.
I love Corey. I love everyone and everything that everybody does in Arizona. And I just
Mhm.
want to also take this time in this platform, because SIA has done an amazing job of growing. I just want to take this time to spotlight Arizona and everything that we've done, and we're open for business, right? I'm just am super passionate about that. And so this election has allowed me to promote some of my fun allies and friends who I've been in the trenches with for nearly
Yeah.
15 years. And will be longer, whether I win or lose, in
Yeah.
Arizona, fighting the good fight.
Yeah. Well, that's great, Joy. I mean, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. And I really wish you all the best with the election and everything that you're doing for your company and your state and our industry.
Thank you so much for your time.
Mhm.
I appreciate it.